In this video, we will be finding all of the zeros or roots of this polynomial. I am going to show you two ways of doing this. So the first way is I could use my TI-30XS multiview. I'm showing you this way first because this way pretty much always works. Alright, the other way only works because this is a special case. So what you would want to do to use your calculator to help you find all the zeros is type it into your calculator. So I hit my table button and now I'm typing 5x to the third power minus x squared minus 5x plus 1. Okay, I like to start at negative 10. It rarely goes beyond negative 10. So here I am at negative 10. I'm looking for 0 in the y column as I scroll down. Okay, so here's 1. There's a 0 at negative 1. So once I know that negative 1 is a 0, I can do synthetic division to factor this. So my coefficients are 5, negative 1, negative 5, and positive 1. So if I bring down my 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. Add these up, that's negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. Add these up, that's positive 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1, and of course here you get 0. Now this is a trinomial. Well, these are the coefficients of a trinomial. So the trinomial is 5x squared minus 6x plus 1. Okay, the 0 of negative 1 would come from a factor of x plus 1. So far I have factored the original polynomial down to this. But I am betting that this trinomial will factor further. So that's what I'm going to do. 5x squared can only factor as 5x times x. 1 can only factor as 1 times 1. Inner plus outer equals middle. Inner, I have 1x. Outer, I have 5x. I'm trying to get negative 6x, middle. I can get negative 6 out of this if I let both of these be negative. That means both of these would be negative. A negative times negative is a positive, so that works out. Okay, this x plus 1, I can bring it down. So these are my three factors. So I can set these equal to 0 and solve, and that will give me my zeros, and that's what I'm looking for. So if I set these equal to 0, so x plus 1 equals 0, 5x minus 1 equals 0, x minus 1 equals 0. Subtracting 1, I get x equals negative 1. Okay, I already knew that because negative 1, I got that off my calculator in the first place. Okay, adding 1 to both sides, I have 5x equals 1. Dividing by 5, that gives me x equals 1/5. So that's a new 0. So I have negative 1 and I have 1/5. Adding 1 to both sides, I get x equals 1. So these are my three roots, or zeros. Negative 1, 1/5, and 1. Okay, there's negative 1, positive 1, and 1/5 is right here. So the correct answer is C. So that's one way that you could do it. Now I'm going to go back and show you another way. Now whenever I see 4 terms, I think about grouping. Okay, grouping is where you take these two terms and these two terms and treat them separately for a moment. So there's a common factor of x squared right here. If I pull out that x squared, then I have x squared, and then if I divide both of these by x squared, I get 5x minus 1. Some kids forget the 1, but remember, if I'm dividing both of these by x squared divided by x squared is 1, not 0, so you need to put a 1 there. In the meantime, over here, there is no GCF, but I see I've got a negative there. So I'm going to treat this negative like it's a negative 1. Okay, like it's a negative 1. So what I need to do is I need to pull out a negative 1 and divide both of these by negative 1. So that will leave me with 5x minus 1. Imagine doing the distributive property with this negative 1. Negative 1 times 5x, that's negative 5x. Negative 1 times negative 1, that's positive 1. So it makes sense that I have a negative 1 out front here. So for grouping, you have to have the same thing twice. And I was sort of looking for that. I knew this grouping would work, but I see the 5 and the 1 here. I see the 5 and the 1 here. I see that repetition. That made me think that grouping would work. Now, the parentheses are common. So I will pull my 5x minus 1 out front as a common factor. That's going to leave behind the x squared and the minus 1. Now, x squared minus 1 factors further because that is the difference of two squares. So that is x plus 1, x minus 1. Okay, so now we have factored it. Just like we factored by the other method, we get 1/5 from this, negative 1 from this, and positive 1 from this. So once again we get C. So if you're comfortable with grouping, then that's a good way to do it. And you don't need a calculator.